So when I was young, in elementary school, on the verge of moving up to the middle school with my sister, my dad told us a story, one that we had rarely heard before. So we knew that he had gone to college, but what we didn't know was that the college that he went to in the city where he met my mom was actually the second institution that he attended. Because before attending Alabama State University, my dad went to a little school in Kentucky some of you may have heard of, known as Louisville. He was there to run track, and as such, he was able to live in campus housing alongside the other athletes. And he recalled the facilities being remarkable. But as with so many other students, life circumstances meant he had to go back home. So he went back to Ohio, and when he was ready to return to school, he did so at Alabama State University. A school that he talked about a lot differently than Louisville. Rather than rave about the facilities, he raved about the faculty and how they cared about him as a student. My mom, who went to Alabama A&M, they didn't let their rivalry affect their affection for each other, often said the same thing about her own campus. The professors, the campus environment were fantastic, even if the facilities were older. So it's probably a foregone conclusion that I'd end up going to a historically black college as well. My oldest sister graduated from Hampton. My sister Audrey was at Alabama A&M at the time. My cousin was going to be joining me there at the time. And if you read the book, you probably know that when I arrived on campus, it was blanketed in snow. And for an idealistic young person, or even a not so young person, there are few things that are more awe-inspiring than a college campus covered in snow. But as the semester wore on and snow did what snow does, signs of wear began to reveal themselves. The older buildings, the potholes, the green spaces where the water wouldn't run downhill. Add to that, my homework was piling up and I needed a release, so I decided to go explore the city. And I'd primarily known Huntsville and its relationship to A&M, but across town there was another institution, University of Alabama at Huntsville. It was a predominantly white institution, founded in 1950, in part because segregation was the law. And though there were two four-year institutions in the city, both were black colleges, and white students could not attend them. But for my purposes at the time, UAH had a library that was open 3 hours longer than ours, so it offered me a chance to get a bit of additional studying done. So I take the stairs downstairs out to my car outside of Foster Hall, and our elevator was on the fritz, and so I headed to UAH. And when I got there, the physical differences between the two campuses were jarring. They had newer buildings, the roads seemed freshly paved, and the student body in a city that was 30% black was overwhelmingly white. Then there were the things I'd learned later, like why the university had been founded in the first place, and that it had a significantly larger endowment than my own institution, which had been open for 75 years longer than it had. Perhaps I thought maybe, being melodramatic, but ultimately I came to realize that my experience was not an anomaly. And that led me to the question that I've been grappling with for several years. How did America's colleges become so unequal? I reckon that the history of it all was so important because it's impossible to fix an issue, to weed a garden, if you don't know where those roots lie. But that question's natural follow-up is equally as important. With all of the information about where the issues stem from, how do we fix them?